Good evening, and welcome to a special edition of Around Town. I'm Deanna Durrigon.
And I'm Renee Dallas. And who are we talking to tonight?
Well, tonight we have some special guests. We have Ernie Alonso from Old Town Orange Haunted Orange
You mean to
Tours.
say that Old Town Orange is haunted?
Well, apparently it's haunted.
I mean, like we live in a ghost town?
Yeah, apparently we do. I guess we're going to be talking to him a little later, and we're going to find out about the Vineland Hotel, the Royer Mansion.
The Royer Mansion.
And then apparently there's a correlation between antiques and ghosts.
And paranormal squeaky activity.
Exactly.
Wow.
So what else do we got today in the show, Renee?
Well, later on in the show, we're going to be talking with blogger Kelly Borgen of I Heart Old Town Orange. And she's going to give us a guest commentary for Around Town and tell us a little of the activity and business owner activity, things that are going on in Orange. It's always fun. It's always hip when you hear it from Kelly.
Okay, well, we've got a great show, so stay with us. We'll be right back.
Well, let's get started. Tell me whatever possessed you to think that there was something in Orange that was paranormal.
Well, I grew up in Orange. I grew up here. I went to Orange High School. My family, I have a rather large family. They all grew up in Old Town Orange. And growing up in Old Town, most of my family had homes here around the Plaza area. And we would always hear stories like at family dinners or reunions and things about certain things that would happen in the homes. And so it kind of started from there. Just kind of being fascinated with ghost stories, and my aunt would really creep us out as kids with her stories. Yeah. And I used to come down to the Plaza a lot. I used to frequent a lot of the antique shops. I like to, browse antiques and purchase them. And one day I was in one of the shops, and I had overheard one of the gals talking to, I guess maybe one of the shopkeepers in one of the malls about some stuff that had happened. I guess some, weird stuff that was going on in the building. Then I kind of went back in there and asked, hey, what were you guys talking about? Right. What was going on? And she started sharing and opening it up with me. Then skipping forward, I've always loved to, when I travel, I like to take tours, ghost walk tours or historic tours. And so I started doing that a lot. And I thought to myself, it would be interesting to find out if there was enough paranormal stories or things going on in the city of Orange to kind of put together, this is looking way ahead, to put together some kind of a tour in Old Town, based on some of the stories and stuff that I've heard. So then what I started off with a website. There was a company where you can kind of build your own, free website.
What's the name of your website?
It's called hauntedorange.com.
Hauntedorange.com.
And so I thought it would be great to just as a hobby for myself, just to start compiling information on some of these locations that I collected stories on. So I started doing that. Started asking questions, going to some of these shop owners, asking if they had any personal experiences that they wanted to share with me. I would at times record them. At times I would just jot down notes, and then I would start posting up, information on these different locations. Then what I decided to do is I would go back, I would take pictures of the building just to make it look a little more interesting, and I just started building location by location, and I was pretty surprised that I would say probably at least 70% of the business owners or people that worked in Old Town had some kind of a story.
Had some kind of a backstory.
To tell. And so that was encouraging. At first I was kind of like, gosh, I don't want them to think I'm crazy by going in and asking them all these questions. But, people were, for the most part, were very open about talking about their experiences in Old Town.
So let me ask you, when did you start the actual tours?
The tours we started, I think, about a week after the street fair. The first.
That was it.
Probably like the first week.
So you guys had a booth at the Orange International Street Fair.
We had a booth at the street fair, and that was kind of a last minute decision that we were able to do. And actually, we shared a booth with Orange County Paranormal Society.
Oh,
and
okay.
We'll talk a little bit about that, I guess, later when they
later
come
in
on.
the show.
And you know, they have such a huge attendance at that event that, and it was perfect because you get everyone, you know, that is local here.
Yeah.
And gosh, we just had an overwhelming,
So you had some really great visibility.
response. Yeah, at the fair.
And we had a great response.
Right.
Yeah, I imagine too, with people that love Old Town Orange, there's this sort of fascinating backstory history that everybody's into. And, you know, I think too, when you talk about ghosts or haunts, I think everybody's kind of interested in unfinished business. You know, I mean, to me, the whole idea of ghost is, did somebody leave this earth and have unfinished business and they have to come back?
They
It's
come
kind of
back
like
to your family
Scrooge and Marley, you know, who says, don't do these things you did, you know, when I was alive. I totally blew it. So that's sort of the, you know, interesting, fascinating part about it to me is sort of the unfinished business that's here.
Charles, you're the tour guide.
Yes, I am.
Right? And you're also a paranormal investigator.
I am.
So tell us what's your part and what kind of experiences have you had being a tour guide?
Being a tour guide, especially in a town like Orange, is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
The response we've had on the tours is really good. The sites have a great history on them. The ghost stories attached to them are really fun to tell and communicate, and it kind of gives people a really great way of seeing their town in a whole new light.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about the infamous Vineland Hotel, like a little tidbit of what you tell them when you go there?
Well, usually we take them right down Chapman, and we'll go right out in front and say, you know, well, welcome to one of the oldest hotels in the area, and you look at this like 1950s or 60s storefront, and they don't get it. And I said, no, this is from the 1880s. And then I start showing them photographs of what it looked like, and then I'd say, and it's still there in complete existence. Let's go take a look at it, and we go around back. And we talk about the whole history of the hotel, how it used to be a middle-class hotel, and the Great Blight, and then the Depression, and all these things that happened that turned it into what it is, and how the hotel is still wonderfully preserved, but behind this facade.
Yeah.
Well, I never knew that, too. I've lived in Orange for 17, 18 years.
I was going to ask.
And I always thought, I never realized that hotel was there but until somebody pointed it out. Actually, on your website, you've got an arrow pointing to the roof.
Right.
The roof line that's behind there. And really, I never knew that.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of people in Orange that don't know a lot of this stuff.
And
There
tell
is
us about
interesting.
some of your other stops on your tour. Or where are the other stops?
Like the Royer Mansion, the old Pixley Furniture, which is now the Chapman Media offices, which is the old Victorian Tea House.
Okay.
Oh, right.
That's a great one. And, of course, a couple of stops right there on Gliselle, a couple of the antique shops.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, my husband used to have an office in the Royer.
Perfect.
When it was converted to when it first converted to executive office suites, and he does a lot of writing. I remember he stayed late one night to write in his office, and he said that place creaked. And he remembered he heard his story and ran all the way down to the basement, couldn't find anything, couldn't see anything, but he sure could hear a lot, a lot of creaking going on.
It's a really interesting place. Actually, I had a chance earlier today. I was mentioning to you that I was able to interview Gene Seacrest, who is the former owner of the house. He actually took over the house right after it was Donegan's mortuary, and it sat vacant for a few years, and he took it over in the early 80s. And so he was able to kind of, we spoke on the phone a few times, and through the information that I got through him and then some research that we did at the Orange Public Library, we were able to put together the information for the tour. But it was nice to be able to sit and talk with him because he kind of gave me all the stories in detail,
Right.
Which was great. And so that's going to actually be posted up on our website in the next few days.
That sounds interesting.
But there is a lawyer that has an office downstairs, and she frequently hears sounds coming from directly across from where her office sits, because that used to be the old area where they used to store the bodies, and that's actually still there under the front porch area.
On your tour, do you have any people that are like psychic, or do they have any experiences that spook the other tour guests? Or
Well, I think afterwards, we had a couple people send emails about experiences that they felt on the tour. We had one person who was involved with our group that had experienced some pretty creepy stuff down in the basement of not Chapman Antiques, the Antique Depot, and so that was very interesting just to hear what he had experienced. And so we have had a couple of guests that have gone on the tours who maybe are a little more sensitive to this type of stuff, that they're able to pick stuff up. And then I always hear about it later, of course. They'll send me an email and ask me, hey, did anything happen here because I felt this way? Or so it's always really interesting.
do you also stop at any churches or cemeteries in Orange? Or?
No.
Well, the cemeteries, no,
Too
because right now it's a
far.
walking tour,
Right.
and that's going to be quite the haul for them. But we are going to be adding PJ's Abbey, which of
PJ
course
Abbey's.
was a church.
Right, okay.
So, and they have some fantastic stories too. So we're going to be adding it to the tour.
Oh, that will be really interesting, because that church has got so much history, and now it's a restaurant. Mm-hmm. So that will
And
be
some
very
great
interesting.
stories by the people that work there.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us how people can get more information, how to take your tour, how much does your tour cost, the website?
The website is hauntedorange.com, of course, and so it's pretty easy to remember, you would hope. And they can go on the homepage. There's a little banner where they can click and they can purchase tickets. We have a lot of information on the website. Of course, we're not going to put everything on there because we want to encourage people to come take the tour and learn more that way. But we have a great photographer, Ed Stroman, who does our photography for the website. Orange County Paranormal has contributed. We're teaming up with them for investigations, and he'll talk a little bit about that.
They'll be on our show, on the next segment of our show.
So yeah, there's a lot of information on there. So they can go to hauntedorange.com, click on the little tab, and they'll take them to the tickets. And right now we have quite a few dates open, and we're going to be opening up.
So you're
some
always
more.
adding new dates.
Yeah, and that's something that we plan to do year round. Right now,
We're going to be year round. We're not going to stop with the season.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
And so, rain or shine, you still will do tour? I mean, have you ever experienced any bad weather?
I think we will. I think most of the areas are pretty much covered, and if somebody shows up and it's raining and they absolutely can't go, I'm sure we'll accommodate them as well. But
it seems like rain would add to the ambiance anyway, right?
yeah.
So.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for your
Ernie
time.
And
Thank you.
Charles. And we'll be right back.